Hello and welcome to the Everything is Black and White podcast. It's time for the view from the opposition, coming in early this week with Gibbo enjoying a little Christmas break. But fear not, the match preview will be out tomorrow. But for now, we're joined by Luton Town FC fan and YouTuber Lewis Williams to get the insight into Saturday's opponents. The game, a good old traditional 3 o'clock kickoff, will see Newcastle face Luton for only the second time this century. The only other time was back in the FA Cup in 2018. Newcastle coming into this game in mixed form, pretty much unbreakable at home, but a poor shadow of themselves on the road, while Luton picked up 5 of their 9 points at Kenilworth Road, although that doesn't tell the full story. More on that later in the show. This is the Everything is Black and White podcast. Please like and follow through whichever platform you're tuning in through. Let's get on with the show. Lewis, thanks for sparing the time. How are you keeping?
Not too bad. I'm a little bit more confident after the intro of you guys not doing too well away from home for this weekend. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. Lots of things are happening this weekend. So hopefully 3 points before Christmas is one of them for us.
Well, I do have to say, I think you stand a good chance of getting 3 points. I know our listeners will say I'm being negative again, but that away form of Newcastle is really starting to get me down. But there is only one place that we can start, and that is the topic of Luton's captain, Tom Lockyer. Now, our listeners won't need reminding, but Lockyer suffered a cardiac arrest in the game last weekend versus Bournemouth. It goes without saying that our thoughts and prayers for speedy recovery go to Tom and his family. What is the latest with Tom, and how do you think such an incident will have impacted not just the squad, but the fan base as well?
Well, already, if you are a Newcastle fan going to the game on Saturday, there's going to be banners. I think we've got like a massive like flag parade happening within the stadium, and I think on the 4th minute as well, there's going to be a standing ovation. So a clap around the stadium for him. I think the club have tweeted out that he's still in hospital. They're still doing scans, but he is, I hope, well still, and yeah, just hopefully a speedy recovery. But yeah, for it to happen twice just in a year, just even once in your whole lifetime is just absolutely crazy. So yeah, hopefully speedy recovery, and yeah, whether he be playing football or not, it doesn't really matter. I don't think. I think it's just the fact that he's well and he's with his family.
Yeah, most certainly. And do you think an incident like this, of course, the football, of course, comes second to the health of Tom, but do you think it kind of even unites the squad even more? They go into Saturday maybe thinking, okay, we not only want to win for Luton, but we also want to win for Tom.
Yeah, it just gives that extra motivation. I think, unfortunately, the team we're playing against is you guys, so it. I feel like the boys are going to try and do it for him, and I think it shouldn't just be for this game. Even if Lockyer doesn't play in a Luton shirt ever again, it probably could be for the rest of the season. Just doing it for Tom Lockyer. You know, our director of football or club legend, in fact, Mick Harford. He's got prostate cancer, and we were you know playing football for him. And getting promotions for him. So the same again. Doing it for Tom Lockyer, and yeah, Newcastle. I feel like that you're going to see a different Luton performance, because I just think, you know, even though we've been putting in that 100% like work rate, I feel like we're going to just find an extra 10%, and that's what we're going to do on Saturday.
And I guess given that assumption that's going to come on Saturday, that shows you just what a big part Tom is of the squad at Luton.
Oh yeah, he's with Luton, the way we recruit players with great attitudes, commitment. There's like a massive togetherness within the squad. That's why a lot of people are saying out of the 3 promoted teams, Luton are the more likely team to stay up because of that togetherness. And when one person is out, or such a big character like Tom Lockyer, it does impact the team, because although he's the captain, we've got lots of captains at the club who can rise to that occasion. So when someone like him, a big character, goes, yeah, it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hit the squad massively. But then we'll all come together as a family and push on and keep going and just try and get those points. Because Tom wouldn't want us to dwell and be upset for him. He wants us to go out, put in a good performance, and get 3 points to make him happy, but everyone else happy at the same time.
Yeah, most certain. I guess again, the question is a bit of a tough one to ask, but there will be the question of how something like what happened against Bournemouth does impact the squad, because it's a horrible thing to see. It's a horrible thing to see your captain, to see your friend go down in that way. Do you think there will be any? I don't know if negative is the right word to use, but do you think there will be a negative impact given what they witnessed against Bournemouth?
I don't know. I don't know. I feel like when you play football, sometimes it's like you escape. Like even when, normal people like us play football, not athletes, what happened either prior to that, we kind of forget, even if it's like a bad day at work, or I know I'm not comparing a bad day at work to an incident like that, but I'm just using that as like an example. You don't really remember what's happened. It kind of like you blank out because you've got to focus on the game. Because if you don't focus on the game, you're going to get punished. So I feel like, especially at that level, of the intensity and everything else, I just think not like they put it to one side, but I feel like they will try to, and I don't think it would influence them. But look, I'm not an athlete. I'm not in their position, so I can't really say.
You suspect that the message might be, though, concentrate on the football. And yeah, if Tom's well enough, he may well send some sort of message to the squad as well, tell them to get back to winning ways. And again, we wish Tom all the best. Now, Lewis, let's talk about Luton's home form, because they've picked up 1 win and 2 draws at home, but have dropped points from winning positions in 3 of the last 4 at home, and against the league's best sides in Liverpool, Manchester City. Does that provoke frustration as much as it does hope?
Yes, I've been walking away from Luton thinking I wish it was the other way around. I wish the other teams were ahead and we were equalising, because then it would feel more like a win type of thing. Yeah, unfortunately, we're not we're not been staying awake. We've been having these moments where we're fall asleep at the wrong bit, and teams just like fully take advantage of that. Even if we go 90 minutes, we've been spot on, but for a minute in added time or something, we just fall asleep. That's when teams punish us. And I feel like the difference between Premier League and Championship is Premier League teams punish you. It doesn't matter. Like Championship teams, if you like fall asleep and they try and counter, for example, they may miss the opportunity. But in the Premier League, they're taking every single one. And unfortunately, that's our issue at the moment. So yeah, it's hurts, because if we can perform 10 out of 10 against you guys on Saturday, but then Callum Wilson in the 89th minute, who's had a shocking game, for example, may just take advantage of a misplaced back pass, and that's it. And that's what's been happening, and it really does frustrate us a little bit, because I feel like our performances deserve more points. But obviously, everyone just looks at the league table and go, "Well, Luton should be there." But actually, the performances should reflect more points and to be higher up in the table.
And of course, the other side that I forgot to mention there was Arsenal right at the death as well. How does Rob Edwards then get that balance? Because, like the original question I asked was, is it frustration as much as hope? How does he? How does he, make sure that actually the squad don't become frustrated and they turn that hope into wins eventually?
It's tough. For me, I think it'll just keep happening. I think we're doing the best we can, and you can tell every player in that team is working 100%. Like there's not one player which you can look at and go, actually, he's not working 100%. They're all working 100%. They're all trying their best. But the problem is, I think it's just the quality. It really is, and it's just you just got to be real with it and just go. We are way behind these other Premier League clubs, but we're still competing. And the only way to probably stop things that are currently happening is maybe by bringing 1 or 2 players in January to kind of help us with that. So we need to kind of ride the storm. I know we've got you guys, Sheffield United and Chelsea coming up over Christmas periods. But yeah, in the January transfer window, I think to stop what's currently happening, I think you're gonna need a new face in, or maybe 1 or 2 new faces in with a bit of Premier League experience.
Is that the key? Do you think the experience that's lacking? The experience to see out a game, the experience to maybe put it into touch instead of trying to play out from the back in the last minute?
Yeah, I wanted another Premier League defender. Well, I wanted a Premier League defender before the season started. But unfortunately, we didn't get one in, and it did concern me a little bit, because we've got a massive injury crisis at the moment, especially defensively. We've had it, believe it or not, the last 3 seasons, we've always had injuries in defence. And obviously in the Championship, we've managed to get away with it. And we've got the players that have managed to rise to the occasion. Obviously, this season, it's been a nightmare, because players such as Burke, who are absolutely fantastic. On his day, I think can be a Premier League defender. Osho didn't start the season, but he's now come back in and he's performed really well, scoring against Arsenal. But when you're playing a natural left back as a centre half in Amari Bell, that's when mistakes are going to happen. I think teams are targeting that sort of area. So yeah, it's getting a defender in. I think I think a Premier League defender would calm people down, would just do the simple stuff right. I don't think you don't even need to overcomplicate it. I think people always overcomplicate football with the pep stuff. You don't need to do that. Just simplify it. Just if you need to get it out, get it out. And I feel like in these games against Arsenal and Man City, which we've had recently, we've switched off in like in a minute and or in a 5 minute period, and that's when the teams have taken full advantage of it. I don't know if you watched Manchester City game for us, but when we were playing against them, they scored 2 of their goals in 5 minutes, and it all came from us basically having possession of the ball, and we're losing it in important areas where we could have just played it back to the keeper or booted it out to a far point of the pitch.
So when you're leaving those games, are you leaving thinking opportunity missed? Are you leaving a little bit angry, leaving a little bit frustrated? And how does that impact you going into, say, Saturday against Newcastle, a good side? Then, you know, they're not the level of City or Liverpool at this current point, but I'm just wondering about the feeling after the games and then obviously coming into the next one.
At the moment, it's hard to be frustrated at them because you know they are up against it, and you know they're trying their best. You know that they're doing us proud. But yeah, you'd be lying to yourself if you wasn't a little bit frustrated, in my opinion. You know, just walking away, like especially against City, I was quite annoyed because like we've gone 1-0 up, we did everything right in the first half. We soaked up the pressure. They didn't really test our keeper that too much. But then, a 5-10 minute spell let us down a little bit, and then you walk away thinking we had them there, we had them, and some people may not believe you, but like we did have them, like we had the point to get something. Same against Arsenal, and the same against Liverpool. So yeah, it is frustrating because we can do it. That's the thing. It's just those little moments in the game that's letting us down. If we can just try and iron that out, then fantastic. But I think, from my perspective, going into this game against Newcastle, at the start of the season, if you was to ask me one team that would give us an absolute thumping, I thought it would be Newcastle. But obviously, away from home, I'm hopeful that the repeat of the Sheffield United result doesn't happen to us. But I can't see that happening with the injuries at the moment. So hopefully that goes in our favour a little bit. And obviously with this extra motivation which the boys are going to get from the Tom Lockyer incident, hopefully it sways in our favour this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, the away form is a massive issue for Newcastle. Only one win on the road, and just the form of late, it's been very hit and miss. And going out of the League Cup against Chelsea in midweek in such fashion, I think Luton will be looking at this game and fancying themselves, because Newcastle have also gone out of Europe in disappointing fashion. You've mentioned the injuries there as well. Some key players like Kieran Trippier totally out of form. I think it's a good opportunity for Luton to upset the odds here.
Yeah, well, 100%. I feel like even against Bournemouth, we did stuff right last weekend before the game got postponed. We actually are playing well, but you're not seeing the results to reflect that. And when a win happens or whatever happens in a positive way, that's when you can maybe see us maybe potentially going on a run of good form. And we've had such a difficult run of form, which people don't realise. We've played Manchester United away, Aston Villa away from home. Obviously, you've already mentioned Man City, Liverpool, Arsenal, even Brentford away from home, which is not exactly an easy fixture. So we've had some really tough games, and I would like some easy ones coming up. But even then, Newcastle, Sheffield United, and then Chelsea. But in theory, if we can get a positive result against Newcastle, there's no reason why we can't get a positive result away to Sheffield United and also a positive result at home to Chelsea, because we've all seen the way Chelsea have performed this year. Okay, they beat you guys midweek, but you wouldn't put a tenner on them to win 3 games in a row at the moment.
No, and they shouldn't have beaten Newcastle. In truth told, Newcastle had actually gone for the game. Chelsea would have been beaten, I think, on Tuesday. It was a very strange game plan, I felt, from Eddie Howe and Newcastle United. But that kind of works in with the injuries and maybe couldn't do much more than he did, and had to kind of allow them to sit back. And Chelsea, thanks to Kieran Trippier, got back into the game, then won on penalties. Are you looking at Luton's home form, and is there a kind of hope that it gets a little bit better? Because you would think, given what they're up against, that the home form is going to be key to survival. As I think it's 5 points that they've picked up so far this season. Were you hoping for more points than that this season, realistically, or was that about where you thought there would be?
If I'm being honest with you, I didn't really ever put a target on anything. I just took each game as it comes, and that's what I think you have to do. I think there's no point worrying about stuff that's going to happen in a couple of weeks' time. You just need to focus on each game. And I think at the start of the season, I think we should have got some points at home against the teams which I felt we should have done. Like against Wolves, they were down to 10 men for most of the game, and we had like dominated them once they went down to 10. So we probably should have got 3 points there. West Ham at home, which was the first Premier League home match, dodgy refereeing decisions cost us a little bit, but then again, you could have got a draw there. Burnley at home, we got a defeat there, so really that should have been a draw. So yeah, okay, maybe a couple more points than what we're currently on at the moment. But look, we just got to win the games now. If you don't win at some point, don't get more points, we go down. It's as simple as that. And with the likes of, I don't think Everton are going to go down, but with teams around them like Nottingham Forest, Crystal Palace, um, climbing up the table gradually and increasing that gap. It's worrying times at the moment because you need to get points, and we can't afford not to win our next 3 games, in my opinion.
So how do you think Rob Edwards will be looking at this game? Will he be looking at Newcastle's form, Newcastle's injuries, and saying we do have a big opportunity here to get 3 points?
I think he will perform exactly like how we've done against the 3 big Premier League teams which we've just played. Against Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal. Repeat those types of performances against Newcastle. I think we walk away with something. I really do. I think the Arsenal performance was the best one. So if we can repeat that one, then I think we could potentially get 3 points. But you have to rise to that level. And to be fair, if we do perform to that level and Newcastle still walk away with 3 points, then you're just going to have to just go, you know what, we're up against this massive bit of quality and we're trying. It's harsh, but at least we're trying. We're not giving up. That's the main thing.
Do you think there's been a bit of a mental block to get over? Because I guess for teams in Luton's position, with all due respect, often the message from people outside is, "Oh, well, just enjoy the experience. You were never expected to be here. Just enjoy this season and see what happens." But that's that's not good enough. If it doesn't matter whether you expect to get the Premier League or not, you want to survive in the Premier League and start building for the future. I mean, has that been the case? Do you think that has been the case, or is that just the wrong perspective looking from the outside in?
Well, I think the way we've recruited extremely well. We've brought in some young, hungry players who, if they have a good season this year, have put themselves in the in the shop window, you know, essentially. So I feel like the way we've recruited, and also I think you mentioned about the mentality. I think some of these players have realised actually we can compete. Just looking at the previous games which we've had, oh damn it, we can actually compete with Liverpool. Oh, we can compete with City. So then that should give us a bit of confidence to compete against the teams that are not at to that quality. So I think it's taken a while to realise that they can compete at the level, but now I feel like they now realise. Hopefully from now it gets better. We've never, from my perspective when watching Luton, first 6 months have always been up and down. It's never consistent. It's always the second half of the season where we go on a run, or it takes like until December or November time to get the ground running. And I feel like we're now hit the ground running now in terms of performances. We just need the results to reflect it.
In terms of that, how will they approach the game on Saturday in terms of tactics, formations, and the way they'll have the ball? Will they take the game to Newcastle, or will they invite Newcastle on?
I think we're trying to mix and match it, if I'm being honest with you. What we've been doing is we have allowed teams to play because we know we can't, play teams off the park. But when we do have possession, is to go forward, try and counter when possible. use our set pieces as an advantage because, you know, I like to say we are, you know, we're very direct, we're very physical. We will aim to go long, and we'll rely on Elijah Adebayo to hold the ball up, invite players in, bring them into the game a bit more, and then try and play in your half when we can. We're not going to try and, you know, play out from the back and keep the ball for 20 minutes because that's just not us, and we just simply don't have the players to do that. But what we do is we've got the fight, we've got you know, we're willing to fight the battles, you know, win those second balls, third balls, and obviously with, you know, the crowd, you know, being close to the pitch, intimidating crowd, that will, you know, just get the players going. So yeah, I think the best way to describe it is I do think we're going to repeat the Arsenal performance. So if any Newcastle fan wants to see it, rewatch that game on Amazon and you see it really well. It's just simply us competing, making it really difficult, making it really ugly, frustrating the opposition, and yeah, just try and limit to Newcastle to like chances from outside the box.
Well, I appreciate to my listeners that I've been very negative so far. So I'm going to come in with a stat which is going to cheer you all up. Won't cheer yourself up though, Lewis. Newcastle are unbeaten in the past 16 league games against promoted sides, winning 9 and drawing 7. Since a 2-1 home defeat to Leeds in January 2021. They've won both such games this season by a score of 10 goals to nil. So far, so good. Although I have to say I'm not in the best of spirits ahead of Saturday. And you mentioned there the stadium. It is a very unique stadium. You know, it's one that I wish I was coming down to visit. Just tell our listeners who are fortunate enough to have a ticket for Saturday what to expect when they do visit the home ground.
Just appreciate the old school nature of it because it's gonna go soon. It's only got a couple of seasons left in it, and then it's gone. It's old school. If you're a fan from supporting me going from the 80s, then it's going to be very similar and to experiences to that. But yeah, just enjoy it. The atmosphere is good, you know, especially when everyone's singing and bouncing around. You're close to the pitch. Okay, from the away end, the view isn't good. It is a little bit restricted. The seats are horrible, but I'm sure you are all going to stand anyway. Yes, you walk past someone's garden. You don't go through it. You walk past it. Yes, you do see over it. You could potentially see someone cooking their lunch. That could happen. I can't deny that. But it's unique. It's not. You're not going to see many stadiums like. Well, in fact, there's not many stadiums like that. You know, believe it or not, there were plenty of stadiums like that back in the day. Now there's only a couple remaining, and it's only until the modern day era that a load of people have been slagging it off. But I love it. You know, it's what I call home. It's what I love to go to on a Saturday afternoon and sing my heart out. In fact, I prefer if the game was on a Tuesday night because Tuesday nights are just another level. But yeah, look, I'm looking forward to it, and I think Newcastle fans should as well because there's not many seasons left, especially if we go down this season as well.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be a great atmosphere all around with Newcastle's diehard travelling away support singing their hearts out as well. Let's talk about then the main man for Luton. If you were sitting down with Eddie Howe and you were telling them one man that he had to stop, who would it be?
It's got to be Ross Barkley. The guy's transformed this season. I think everyone thought, how the hell have Luton pulled that signing off when we brought him in? But he's been an absolute, you know, diamond in the midfield. I don't know if you've seen some of the pictures, but sometimes when he receives the ball in the half turn, there's about 3 or 4, you know, players around him, and he's still getting the ball past him, and he's still playing the ball around him. So he's the man to watch. I don't know if you guys saw our goal against Manchester City, but it was him receiving the ball in the half turn. 4 Man City players around him, and they're not average Man City players. He's got one of the best defensive midfielders in the world in Rodri right behind him. He outdoes all 4 of them with a little bit of a skill, plays it out wide, and then we go on to score. You know, he's one player that if you can stop him playing, then we'll have an issue. But I don't think any team's been managed to be able to do that. So if Joe Linton can be kind and not, you know, tackle him or Bruno, and because I know how hard they tackle players, they can be a little bit nice on the weekend. That'd be great.
Well, you might be in luck because I think Joe Linton's still a doubt. We'll hear from Eddie Howe on Friday, but Bruno should be up and ready. Although he did get a yellow card in the League Cup quarter-final, and with Newcastle being out, I'm not sure how actually that works out, but it should be Bruno in the middle, I think. And we know he does love a good battle, but hopefully from Newcastle point of view, Joelinton is back and able to play, because he's a tank in the middle and he loves them kind of physical battles. But it does feel like Barkley always just needed kind of an arm around the shoulder, and we would see his true potential. So it is good to see that happening. Hopefully it doesn't happen on Saturday. I think you've kind of already answered the next question, but let's just get it reaffirmed. What's the main weakness of Luton that Newcastle can exploit? Is it that lack of experience in seeing the game out, or is there something else that comes to mind?
Yeah, I think when we're having like a little blip in the game, and we're switching off, that's the weakness. I think it's not being able to consistently concentrate for 90 minutes, maybe, whether that's leaving a man unmarked, or, misplacing a pass in a really important area. That's when Newcastle can exploit. Newcastle don't have to perform really well. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, and we've proven that, unfortunately, Luton this year, we can control the game and be the better team. But if we switch off for one moment and we don't score during our positive plays in the game, Newcastle have an opportunity. The longer the game stays 0-0, the longer the game stays 1-0 or whatever it is, Newcastle are still in the game. So it is just taking full advantage of those moments of switching off. That's our weakness. I don't think we can stop that until we bring players in.
And what about the main strength? You've mentioned the fight that they've got. Does that roll into it, or is there another element that you think Eddie Howe will be watching out for?
It'd be, I say, our wing backs as well. Our wing backs like to push forward. They cause problems. Kapore, Alfie, Philip Pace, and they always look to try and get the ball into the box. We always look to go for set pieces as well. Alfie Doherty, who's our left-sided wing back, he's, I think, got 6 assists so far from left wing back. So he's pushing it, and he puts in some fantastic balls into the box. And with Elijah Adebayo on good scoring form, he scored in his last 2. He also scored against Bournemouth, which obviously got voided. So he scored, in fact, technically he scored in his last 3 games. He's going to be one that's going to look to try and score in this game. So yeah, plenty of areas where we could try and exploit. But at the end of the day, we're just going to try and play our own game. We're not going to worry too much. And yeah, just hopefully try and get some points.
Fingers crossed that doesn't happen from a Newcastle point of view. Just to finish off then, is there a Newcastle United player that you're particularly concerned about, fearing, seeing on Saturday now? As I mentioned there, Joelinton is probably not going to be available. Fabian Schär might be out. Isak could be back. But is there a name that springs to mind?
It was Isak, but as he's obviously not playing, I'm a little bit more happier. I think, believe it or not, Gordon, he's I always call players like that rats. Players that are just very irritating, and I feel like, I don't know, he's an irritating winger. It's not someone I think opposition fans like. I think if he plays for your team, you love him, type of thing. But as he's an opposition, I just don't like him. I feel like it's not like he would dive or anything like that, but that type of player who just tries to fool the referee type of thing. And that's what I feel like he will do throughout the game, especially in a toxic atmosphere like it can be at Luton. He could frustrate the fans. And if he does that, then yeah, it's you guys are winning that type of battle there. So yeah, he's the one I'm more going to be keeping my eye on, because I know he's good. He's got good ability in himself. He can beat players. He's got that pace. But yeah, he does irritate me a little bit.
Well, it's like your Christmas has come early, Lewis, because he had to leave the pitch against Chelsea early in the second half because of an injury. So he might also be out of action. We will find out on Friday morning from Eddie Howe, although we usually have to just wait until the team sheet, because Eddie Howe says one thing and something else happens entirely. Likes to keep us guessing. But yes, yeah, so, I mean, there's a lot of players that could threaten Luton, but there's also a lot of players who could be missing in action for Newcastle. And it's the injuries are starting to definitely catch up with them now. All that remains to be done then, Lewis, is to get your score prediction for Saturday. How's this one going to go?
Well, you're making me more positive with all these players that keep getting injured, to be fair. So I'm like, right, which one's going to cause us problems, or which one's going to be available to cause us problems? I'd be silly if I feel confident. This is probably the most I've ever felt, and with obviously what happened last week, I think that just gives us extra motivation. I think everyone's going to be more up for it. There's going to be an extra 10% in our performance, so I'm going to say 2-1 at home.
2-1 at home, right? I'm going to give my score prediction in a moment, but just let our listeners and viewers know where they can find you on YouTube and on your socials.
Yeah, so it's just type in Lewis Williams on YouTube, and then my channel pops up, or Lewis LTFC, Lewis Luton. All my videos pops up. I've been doing videos ever since we were in League Two, so you can, if you fancy rewatching that journey, feel free to do so. But yeah, we'll be making a match preview on this Newcastle game coming up.
So on that, just a quick question: the fact that you've been doing it that long, what is it now like to be in the Premier League, following, supporting your club, Luton?
Oh, it's mental. I was super. The first time we came up on Match of the Day, I was like, this is amazing, because when I grew up in school, I was growing up with Arsenal, Manchester United fans. There was not a single Luton fan in my school. I was the only one. So the fact that I get to see all this and get to enjoy all these moments is just fantastic. I've gone through some absolute, dumps in the country. When people call Luton a dump, trust me, I've seen some dumps in this country, and that was in non-league, in League Two, in League One, even in the Championship, i.e. Watford. But so many dumps. But yeah, it's been an absolute amazing journey. I think we've proven so many people wrong, and I hope we just keep continuing to prove people wrong, because that's just what we do. And if we can stay up this season, so many fans are going to get it. So many fans are going to hear what we've got to say, because we've been wrote off before the season started.
Well, I do wish you guys well. I do hope you survive, but I hope it's not with the help of Newcastle on Saturday. I'm going to apologise again to the listeners and viewers, because I'm going to go for a 1-0 defeat for Newcastle. I'm just not feeling confident at all. I just think everything's against Newcastle. The way form, the injuries, going out of the cup competitions, the form of key players. It's just I'm just not feeling it. So I think it will be Christmas joy to Luton, unfortunately. But hopefully I'm proved wrong. I did predict Fulham to batter Newcastle last weekend, and I was very, very wrong. So hopefully, once again, I'm wrong. But we will see. Lewis, thank you for popping onto the podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure. To you guys listening and watching, please hit subscribe or follow through whichever platform you're tuning into, and head over to chroniclelive.co.uk for all the latest Newcastle United news, including Eddie Howe's press conference on Friday morning and live coverage of this game through our dedicated match day blog on Saturday afternoon with a 3 p.m. kickoff.